Donald Trump has once again found himself in the spotlight for sparring with the media, this time reigniting his long-standing feud with CNN. The latest target, none other than anchor Kaitlan Collins, one of the network's rising stars and known for her tough, often relentless questioning. During a recent live interview, what was supposed to be a traditional sit-down quickly spiraled into a classic Trump vs. media clash. From the moment the camera started rolling, tensions were high, with Trump clearly setting the tone. He wasn't there to play nice. Collins, staying true to her journalistic style, pressed Trump on a number of hot-button issues, from the January 6th riots to the classified documents scandal. But rather than offer direct answers, Trump took the offensive. Interruptions, sarcastic remarks, and outright dismissal of her questions quickly took center stage. At one point, he even called her a nasty person, echoing one of his infamous retorts used in past debates and interviews. The crowd's reaction was mixed and gasped. Others applauded, but the internet lit up instantly. What followed wasn't just another viral moment, it was a reflection of the ever-widening divide between Trump supporters and mainstream media consumers. For his loyal base, this was vintage Trump, unfiltered, combative, and unapologetic. For critics, it was yet another example of how he avoids accountability by attacking the messenger. Regardless of where you stand politically, one thing is clear. Trump knows how to control a room and a news cycle. But perhaps the more important question here isn't about who won the exchange. It's about what this means for the future of political journalism. Are we witnessing the breakdown of respectful discourse between elected leaders and the press? Or is this simply the new normal in an era where headlines are crafted more by moments of conflict than clarity? Either way, this latest showdown with Kaitlan Collins proves one thing. Donald Trump remains a master at turning even the most serious interviews into must-see television, and love him or hate him, the world keeps watching.
And this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please.
Donald Trump, never one to shy away from confrontations, made it abundantly clear that he wasn't in the mood for games during a recent media event. When the press pool got their turn to ask questions, all eyes were on the former president, especially CNN's Kaitlan Collins, who had already made headlines for her aggressive line of questioning. But Trump, in classic fashion, made a deliberate move that spoke louder than words. He ignored her completely. Despite Collins' visible efforts to get his attention, Trump kept his focus on other reporters, bypassing her as if she wasn't even in the room. It was a strategic snub, one clearly meant to send a message not just to Collins, but to the entire press corps. For Trump, who has long framed himself as battling what he calls fake news media, the move reinforced his ongoing feud with certain outlets and personalities. Collins' persistence may have gotten her airtime, but it didn't get her answers. What made the moment even more striking was the contrast between Trump's calm demeanor and Collins' frustration. As other journalists asked their questions and Trump responded with measured, even occasionally humorous remarks, Collins' attempts to interject became more noticeable and more awkward. The former president's refusal to engage with her wasn't just petty politics. It was theater, designed to control the narrative and spotlight his own dominance in the media arena. In the end, Trump's silent dismissal did more than any shouted rebuttal could have. It left Collins visibly sidelined, made headlines across conservative media, and reminded everyone watching that in the Trump era, the spotlight isn't shared, it's seized.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
You won the White House in part.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, you are meeting time with Mr. Modi of India.
Yes.
Online commentators erupted with laughter and disbelief as the clip circulated across social media. Many couldn't resist weighing in on what quickly became a viral moment. One user quipped that the reporter should be benched from the press, Paul entirely, joking that she clearly hadn't read the manual on Oval Office etiquette. Another echoed the sentiment, praising Trump for standing his ground, writing, "Love how President Trump claps back at fake news. He's not afraid to expose their bias and shut down the interruptions, one savage response at a time." But the moment wasn't just a passing exchange, it was classic Trump, and he wasn't finished. Seizing the momentum, the president doubled down, turning his sights on CNN with renewed energy. With the cameras still rolling, he launched into a scathing takedown of what he described as the network's consistent dishonesty and manipulative coverage. He accused them of manufacturing outrage, twisting facts and acting more like political activists than journalists. His supporters cheered the confrontation, calling it another example of Trump's no-filter approach to calling out media spin. Even critics, though sharply divided, acknowledged that the moment was a reminder of Trump's enduring ability to command the stage no matter the setting. The scene perfectly encapsulated the ongoing battle between Trump and the mainstream media, one that's been playing out since his first campaign. Love him or hate him, the former president once again proved he knows how to dominate a narrative and leave the media scrambling to catch up.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
And he still wasn't finished. After unleashing a barrage of jabs at political opponents, Donald Trump turned his attention to a new target, CNN host Kaitlan Collins, right in the middle of a completely unrelated rant about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Trump couldn't resist throwing in a personal swipe at Collins, making it clear that no one in the room or even adjacent to the topic was safe from his scattershot criticisms. This wasn't just a random detour. It was a classic Trump tactic: derail the conversation, dominate the stage, and leave his critics scrambling to respond. Collins, who had previously sparred with Trump during a tense town hall event, has become one of his frequent media targets. And whether it's calculated strategy or impulsive showmanship, these offhand insults carry weight. They're part of the ongoing campaign narrative, feeding his base with red meat and ensuring that headlines stay focused on the spectacle rather than the substance. But what made this moment particularly jarring was how casually he folded Collins into his broader rant about Washington's establishment failures and the weakness of Republican leadership. 1 minute he's talking about McConnell's policies, and the next he's mocking Collins' interviewing style. It's this blend of political rhetoric and personal vendetta that defines Trump's communication style, an unpredictable, headline-grabbing whirlwind that leaves everyone else playing defense. As the campaign trail heats up, moments like these aren't just rhetorical footnotes, they're strategic signals. Trump's message is clear: no journalist, no politician, no critic is off limits. And if you come for him, expect to get dragged into the circus. Whether that helps or hurts his cause, that's for the voters to decide. But one thing's certain: Trump never leaves a microphone without making sure the spotlight stays firmly on him.
RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that led. He wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even, and that's saying a lot.
This wasn't the first time Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly found themselves in a tense standoff, far from it. In fact, their public clashes have become almost legendary, a political media rivalry that has played out in full view of the American public, from fiery exchanges during Republican primary debates to pointed interviews and media jabs. The tension between the two has simmered for years, occasionally boiling over into headline-making confrontations. Their friction first exploded onto the national stage during the 2015 GOP primary debate, when Kelly, then a Fox News anchor, pressed Trump with tough questions about his treatment of women. Trump, never one to take criticism lightly, retaliated with controversial remarks that ignited a media firestorm and further strained their already rocky dynamic. What followed was a years-long back-and-forth of veiled jabs, sharp tweets, and televised tensions that blurred the lines between political discourse and personal feud. But beneath the surface, their animosity reveals something deeper: a clash of power, narrative, and influence in the modern American media landscape. Kelly, known for her sharp questioning and refusal to back down, has long positioned herself as a serious journalist challenging authority, while Trump, a master of controlling the spotlight, has used conflict as fuel to rally his base and dominate the headlines. Each sees the other as both threat and opportunity, adversary and asset, depending on the day and the platform. So when the latest face-off happened, it wasn't just another media moment, it was a continuation of an ongoing saga between two strong-willed figures who have repeatedly found themselves on opposite sides of the camera, the narrative, and the culture was. And if history tells us anything, it won't be their last clash either.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
And it's not just former President Trump who's pushing back against Kaitlan Collins and her fellow mainstream media figures. His press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, just issued a blunt and unmistakable warning that has the entire press corps on edge. Leavitt made it crystal clear: the days of unchecked narratives, loaded questions, and media manipulation are over. Her message wasn't just aimed at Collins, it was a shot across the bow to every journalist who has used their platform to distort, spin, or openly undermine conservative voices. Leavitt's comments weren't of the cuff. Either they were a deliberate signal that this campaign won't play by the old rules. The implication: if reporters like Collins continue to use their positions not to inform, but to provoke and mislead, they'll be met with resistance every step of the way. No more softball interviews designed to preserve reputations, and no more tolerance for reporters who play activist rather than journalist. This isn't just about one press conference or one exchange, it's a shift in strategy. A new chapter in the ongoing battle between political power and media influence. The Trump team is clearly drawing a line in the sand, making it known that biased coverage will be challenged head-on, not tiptoed around. Whether you see it as a long overdue reckoning or an escalation in media hostility, one thing is certain: the gloves are off, and the next round of the political media war has officially begun.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
This commentator didn't just echo the criticism, he doubled down, delivering a sharp rebuke that's now echoing across social media. His message was clear: you need a serious refresher in protocol and maybe even a manners class while you're at it. According to him, being in the Oval Office isn't some casual hangout spot, it's a sacred space, a symbol of national leadership and global diplomacy. Disrespecting the president while standing in that room, whether intentional or not, isn't just rude, it's unacceptable. He went on to say that such behavior shouldn't be brushed under the rug, and that consequences should follow. In his words, this kind of conduct sets a dangerous precedent. If CNN truly stands for integrity, it must take a firm stance against what he called blatant insubordination. This entire episode has ignited a fresh debate about media behavior, political bias, and respect for institutions. Some say it was harmless and overblown. Others argue it's part of a growing pattern of disregard for the traditions that hold American democracy together. Whatever side you're on, one thing is certain: this controversy isn't dying down anytime soon. At Celeb Insider, we're committed to breaking down the facts behind the drama, whether it's Hollywood feuds or political firestorms. So stay tuned, stay informed, and remember, respect is earned, but accountability is expected. Subscribe now and hit that bell so you never miss the story behind the headlines.